Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at technological disruption.
Ooh.
So, you know how innovative solutions can just like totally shake up established industries?
Absolutely.
And it's so interesting to see how those kinds of shifts play out.
Yeah, and the best examples are when, like, these giants, these seemingly unshakable giants, they just crumble
Yeah.
and a new era begins.
And we're going to be looking specifically at a really great case study, the rise of Uber
Oh, yeah.
and what happened to the traditional taxi industry.
Classic.
And we're going to focus in particular on the New York City taxi medallion market.
Okay.
For those who maybe aren't familiar with that, can you explain what a taxi medallion is?
Yeah, so basically think of a taxi medallion as like a permit, like a golden ticket
Mm-hmm.
that allowed a vehicle to operate as a taxi in New York City.
Okay.
And so these medallions, they were really valuable assets,
Yeah.
almost like owning a piece of the city itself.
Wow.
But what's really interesting is how the New York City Taxi and Limousine Commission managed this system.
Yeah.
They kept increasing the cost of these medallions.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was reading an article by Kartik, who's like an expert on this topic,
Yeah.
and he describes their actions as they decided they were New York City and could charge anything all the way up to infinity.
Such a great quote.
Yeah, so by 2013, a single medallion could cost over $1 million.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Wild.
Is that common in other cities as well?
So New York's medallion system was definitely like extreme.
Okay.
But the whole idea of like scarcity driving up value,
Right.
that wasn't unique to New York.
Okay.
But this inflated cost in New York,
Yeah.
it really created the perfect storm for disruption.
Yeah.
Like it gave a company like Uber a huge advantage right out of the gate.
Right, and it's not just about being cheaper.
No, it's not just about the price.
Uber was like technologically superior in so many ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if you think back to like hailing a cab on a busy street corner,
Oh my gosh.
Uber's app-based hailing system was revolutionary.
It changed everything.
Yeah, like you could track your ride in real time, you could see your driver's information, you could rate the experience, you could pay seamlessly through the app.
Yeah.
It just completely transformed the rider experience.
And you know what's cool about that is they were using technology to solve problems that already existed.
Right.
Like think about you didn't have to worry about carrying cash anymore.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about getting ripped off.
Yeah.
And because you could rate drivers and passengers,
Mhm.
it added this whole layer of accountability that just wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And you could even like potentially recover lost items, which was unheard of
Yeah.
back in the day.
Totally. And it wasn't just the app, like the cars were cleaner. It was a more standardized experience. So
That's
you
right.
even had this sense of safety knowing who your driver was and where you were going. They just excelled where taxis fell short.
They did all the things that people were already complaining about with taxis. But you know what's fascinating is this combination of innovation and addressing those customer needs. It allowed Uber to grow,
Mm-hmm.
even in cities where the medallion prices weren't as inflated.
So it wasn't just exploiting this overpriced market in one city.
Yeah, exactly.
They were creating a better experience for riders everywhere.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like the writing was already on the wall for the taxi industry.
Right.
Like you could almost imagine future generations looking back and being like, why were there so many yellow cars everywhere?
Yeah, just like relics of a bygone era.
Totally.
But beyond Uber and taxis, are there broader lessons we can learn about disruption?
Absolutely. There are tons.
Like what other industries might have those same kind of vulnerabilities?
So Kartik actually uses another example.
Okay.
He points to OPEC and the oil industry.
OPEC. They seem so big, though.
They're huge, right?
Yeah.
For years, they basically had a monopoly on oil production, like this global influence.
Right.
They believed they were irreplaceable.
Wow.
The world needed them, they thought.
Yeah.
And that kind of led to this sense of complacency.
Okay.
And as a result, oil prices just kept going up.
Oh, so it's like the taxi medallions.
Exactly. It's the same pattern.
Yeah.
So are you saying that their dominance led to their decline?
Well, it's kind of ironic.
It is, right.
Yeah.
So because they had so much control over the market
Mm-hmm.
and they kept those oil prices high,
Yeah.
it actually made other solutions more appealing.
Oh, interesting.
Like fracking, for example.
Right.
That was considered way too expensive before.
Mm-hmm.
But then suddenly became competitive.
Wow.
And then you had the push for renewable energy
Yeah.
as the cost of oil just kept going up.
So they were trying to maximize profits.
Yeah.
But they accidentally created the conditions for their own disruption.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Did Kartik see this coming?
He did. He actually predicted the oil price drop because of fracking.
That's impressive.
It is it shows how deeply he understands these patterns of disruption.
So we can actually anticipate these things.
Yeah, by recognizing the vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
understanding how greed and technology and market forces all interact.
Okay, so it's not just observing disruption?
It's about anticipating it.
Wow. I feel like we're starting to uncover like a formula for disruption.
I think we are, but there's still more to uncover.
Oh, there is.
Yeah. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to look at how these same forces are affecting another industry,
Okay.
one that might seem untouchable.
Ooh, which one?
Higher education.
Higher education.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, I can't wait.
I know, right? It's going to be good. So before the break, we were talking about how these giants, like OPEC,
Right.
can actually create the conditions for their own downfall.
It's wild.
And now I want to look at another industry
Okay.
that people might think is immune to disruption.
Okay.
Higher education.
Higher education.
Yeah.
It seems so, like, deeply rooted in our society.
I know, it's been around forever.
Yeah, people have been going to universities for centuries.
Right, exactly.
What makes you think it could be disrupted?
Well, think about what we've been talking about.
Okay.
This complacency, rising costs,
Mm-hmm.
this disconnect between what's being offered
Yeah.
and what people actually need.
Okay.
Higher education, it has a lot of those same vulnerabilities.
Okay, so I'm seeing the parallels.
Yeah.
Can you give some more detail about how those factors are playing out in higher ed?
Yeah. So first, let's think about the cost of tuition.
Oh, yeah.
It's been going up and up for decades,
It's crazy.
way faster than inflation.
Right.
And at the same time, there's this growing sense that the quality of the education,
Mm-hmm.
the value that you're getting for all that money,
Yeah.
it's not really keeping pace.
So it's like the taxi medallion thing again.
Exactly.
The price goes up.
Yeah.
But the product, the education itself,
Yeah.
maybe it's not actually getting better.
That's what I'm suggesting.
And it's like those taxi drivers who were hurt by the medallions.
Right.
Students are graduating with so much debt
Tons of it.
for degrees that don't even guarantee a good job.
Yeah, it's a system where the individual carries all the burden,
Yeah.
while the institutions just keep raising prices.
It's not fair.
So if higher education is so vulnerable,
Yeah.
what could be the Uber of education?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, what could this disruption look like?
Yeah.
That's the million-dollar question.
Uh-huh.
It's still unfolding,
Okay.
but we can see some potential disruptors already.
Okay, like what?
Online learning platforms.
yeah.
They're getting so sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
They're offering more flexible options.
Yeah.
And they're way more affordable.
Yeah. The traditional model's so expensive.
It is.
And for some people, it's hard to move to where the university is.
Absolutely.
So online learning really helps with that.
For sure.
Are there other alternatives?
Yeah, totally. So things like coding boot camps
Okay.
and specialized training programs,
Yeah.
they're becoming more and more popular
Mm-hmm.
because they focus on very specific skills
Okay.
that are in high demand in the job market.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So it's a much faster route to getting a job.
So it's not necessarily about like getting rid of colleges and universities altogether.
No, not necessarily.
It's more about offering other options
Yeah,
that better meet people's needs.
exactly.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing about this is how people are starting to view a college degree differently.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for years and years,
Mm-hmm.
it was seen as the golden ticket.
Yeah.
Like you needed a degree to be successful.
Right. That's what I always heard.
It was just like an unquestioned truth.
Yeah, like you need a degree to get a good job.
Exactly. It was ingrained in the culture.
Right.
But now that perception is starting to shift.
Really?
Yeah, more and more employers are realizing that a degree
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily tell you everything about a person's skills
Okay.
or their potential.
Interesting.
They're looking for experience,
Mm-hmm.
specific skills,
Yeah.
and the ability to learn and adapt.
Right.
And those things don't always come from a degree.
So maybe this belief that everyone needs a college degree is
Mhm.
actually preventing disruption in education.
It could be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what Kardec calls the stickiness of the image of higher education.
Oh,
It's been marketed that way for so long.
centuries
Yeah.
that we just assume a degree is essential.
Right, even if the reality is more complicated now.
Yeah.
So the challenge for disruptors
Yeah.
is to overcome that deeply ingrained belief.
It's fascinating how cultural beliefs can affect disruption.
It is.
It's not always just technology or costs.
It's also our mindset.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a key takeaway from our discussion.
Okay.
Disruption is rarely about just one thing.
Okay.
It's about understanding all these forces.
Yeah.
Greed,
Hmm.
complacency technology, cost differences,
Mm-hmm.
and even cultural beliefs.
So if we can recognize these patterns,
Yeah,
can we predict where disruption might happen?
exactly. And we could even prepare for it.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's about being aware of these dynamics,
Yeah.
questioning the systems we have,
Right.
and being open to new possibilities.
Because as we've seen, disruption can come out of nowhere
It can.
and reshape entire industries.
We have to be ready for it.
So we've been talking about technological disruption.
Some really fascinating examples.
Yeah, and it's kind of unsettling too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
these systems, these industries that we just take for granted,
Yeah.
they can be so vulnerable.
It really makes you think about, like, staying adaptable
For sure.
and being open to new ideas.
Yeah.
What's been most interesting to me, though,
Yeah.
is how predictable this disruption can be.
Oh, totally.
Once you understand the patterns, the warning signs,
Mm.
it's almost like you can see it coming.
Yeah, like you're watching a play and you already know the ending.
Exactly.
And that's where Kardic's insights are so helpful.
Yeah.
Because disruption, it's not just about some amazing new technology appearing out of thin air.
Right.
It's about understanding the context. Like all these little factors that make disruption possible.
It's like those old detective shows.
Oh, yeah.
Once you know the motive and the means and the opportunity,
You got it.
you can solve the case.
Totally.
So in the world of disruption, the motive, I think, is usually profit.
Oh, yeah. That drive to make money.
Right. And they don't always think about the long-term consequences.
It's all about maximizing those short-term gains.
And that can be a big mistake.
It can be fatal.
Yeah, when these big companies get too comfortable, they're not innovating anymore.
Right. They're just trying to squeeze every dollar out of what they already have.
Yeah, and then suddenly they're vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And someone else comes in with a better idea.
And a better product.
And that's what happened with Uber.
Yep.
With fracking.
Mm.
And it could happen with higher education, too.
It's a good reminder that no industry is safe.
Right? No matter how important they seem.
Or how established they are.
So what does this mean for all of us?
For me, the biggest takeaway is being adaptable, being open to change,
Yeah.
and questioning our assumptions.
Because the world is constantly changing, right?
Always evolving.
Yeah, new technologies, new ways of doing things.
And if we're not careful, we'll get left behind.
So we have to be proactive.
Absolutely.
Keep learning.
Stay curious.
Challenge our own beliefs.
Because who knows, maybe one of us will be the next disruptor.
Yeah, maybe we'll spot the next Uber or the next fracking.
The next big thing.
That's an exciting thought.
It is.
To not just watch these changes happen.
But to be a part of them.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I have a little challenge for everyone listening.
Okay, I like a challenge.
Think about what we've talked about today and apply it to your own life.
To your work, to your industry.
Look for those signs of complacency,
Those cost differences.
the new technologies.
Because disruption is everywhere.
And it's up to us to be a part of that change.
To adapt, to innovate, to create something better.
So put on your thinking caps.
Get those deep diving suits ready.
Explore the world with curiosity.
And embrace the unknown.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.